Hi, my name is Ken Sherman. I'm the Parks and Rec Director for the City of Grand Junction. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. We are at a critical juncture in the Orchard Mesa facility and pool planning process. We started this process earlier in the year, and I've had a lot of public engagement up to this point that has really helped inform the study in its preliminary form that you're about to see presented. So anytime we're doing any sort of facility change or improvement or modification, we really want to hear from the community so that the community is really driving what ultimately comes out and is um, impacting of the Parks and Recreation system. We always try to talk about how the Parks and Rec system really belongs to the community, and so we really love hearing from the community. So really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this virtual recording. We're also doing this presentation on Tuesday, August 15th at 5 o'clock at the barn. And if you weren't able to attend, hopefully you're able to see the plan as it's evolving to be with this presentation. So I want to introduce our consultant team. We have Bob McDonald with Olson LeBlanc Corporation, or OLC. We also have Mike Spence with Pros Consulting. So Bob with OLC is really focused on the architectural piece and estimations of capital costs of the different options that are considered in the plan. And then Mike is really our operational expert that looks at operational cost, operational revenue, and the participation that might be anticipated or that is predicted by him as this expert Parks and Recreation consultant for the different options. So again, I want to thank you for tuning in, and I'll turn it over to Bob and Mike to run through the evolving plan, and then I'll jump on at the end to wrap things up. So thank you so much for joining us. Bob, take it away.
All right. Thanks, Ken. It's really great to be here. I'm going to just share the screen of the presentation here. And yeah, we're happy to be back in Grand Junction again and present the next phase of the study that we're participating in. And we're focused now on the Orchard Mesa pool project, and we're calling it the recreational facility. But really, we can't really, consider the Orchard Mesa facility without incorporating this new CRC that's coming online here in just a few years. That new facility that's going to be built out at Matchett Park is going to be a tremendous addition to the community and have a lot of aquatic offerings within it. It's got multiple bodies of water, and we'll be able to serve the community very well in terms of aquatics. The competition pool is currently being upsized to a 6-lane facility. It'll have a therapy pool for warm water and things like that. Zero depth entry leisure pool with a lazy river and some warm-up cool-down lanes and a co-ed hot tub, as well as water slides and other, play features and amenities. So it's really a well-rounded facility that'll be coming online in 2026. The budget for that project right now is at $35 million just on aquatics. So significant investment being made by the community. And we need to just keep that in mind as we study, what to do with the Orchard Mesa pool facility. And considering that, we started off by doing a thorough assessment of the existing Orchard Mesa facility. So, it's 40 years old. It's been well taken care of over the years, but it's been well loved over that time period too, and well used. And so we found that most of those systems, if not all of them, are beyond the end of their useful life. So from the hot tub to the sand filters to the pool boilers, it all really needs to be replaced. It's taken a lot to repair and just keep that facility open right now. Another aspect of this project is just the different partnership that it entails. The school district 51, they own the facility and the land underneath it. And then the city of Grand Junction, they operate the pool and keep it open and maintain it. And then Mesa County also shares in the annual subsidy. So there's a three-way partnership right there that sort of adds another layer of complexity as to what to do about Orchard Mesa. Another thing to consider is just the building itself. Right now, they've found hazardous materials in there, namely asbestos, which is very costly to mitigate and remove. So if you're talking about demolishing the entire building, it's going to cost, just over $900,000. Whereas once that's done, the value of that land after the demolition is only $240,000. So there's a real value proposition there that you really need to consider when you're thinking about what to do with Orchard Mesa. Level of service, the average users per day here with Orchard Mesa, 2022 it was 146. That was up from 2021, 101. So that the average over the 2 years, it's 124 users per day. Compare that to the community rec center that's coming online. It's projecting some 1,100 users per day.
So another key consideration that we have to take into account is understanding the drive times to the new CRC and understanding that overlap between the CRC and Orchard Mesa pool. As you can see, at the middle of the blue graphic is the location of the new CRC. And if you just go directly south from that, you'll recognize that Orchard Mesa, that part of the community is only a 10-minute drive time. So it's important to recognize that, we're basically the two facilities are going to be playing in the quote unquote same user-based sandbox. And we just need to take that as a data point into consideration as we go forward. Another key data point is really understanding what current utilization and participation looks like. This is a standard practice, a standard analysis that is done. And as you can see, the current overall participation at Orchard Mesa is really divided 3-to-1. The blue dots to the south, closest to Orchard Mesa, only make up about 1 out of every 4 users, whereas 3 out of every 4 users come from all other parts of Grand Junction, and in particular, a lot of concentration in and around the CRC. So again, this kind of starts to reiterate and understand who potentially in the future is going to be the user or users of the Orchard Mesa facility versus who is going to gravitate more towards the CRC. Same kind of exercise here, but this is really focused on swim lesson participation. And this is derived from the Orchard Mesa pool in 2022. As you can see, it's even more exaggerated. We have 4 out of every 5 swim lesson participants come from outside of the Orchard Mesa area, whereas just about 1 out of every 5 come from the Orchard Mesa area and close to the facility. So again, same kind of understanding that we expect a lot of potential users to gravitate towards the CRC in the future. And at this point, at least maybe 1 out of every, or 3 to 4 out of every 5 people.
Right. And so we also wanted to just give you some update and feedback on the focus group meetings that we had back in June. And so we met with 5 different groups, from the Parks and Rec staff. We did a recording like this last June. We met with Orchard Mesa leadership and from District 51. Parks and Rec Board, and of course the City Council. So we got a lot of really good feedback back in June when we met with all those folks. And then we also had a public forum. It was really well attended. Some 72 participants came and gave their opinions and thoughts. And, the current OM pool users were well represented. They really enjoy this facility and they want to see it continue to stay open. I had some questions and issues, questions about funding, how's it going to get paid for? What about that partnership? Is that going to continue? What about Orchard Mesa youth and how are they going to get to the new CRC once it opens? And then another thing came up that there's a real need within the community for indoor year-round turf for multiple sports activities. And so some key takeaways from that meeting back in June was just, the current Orchard Mesa pool users, they just want a simple pool. They don't need anything fancy. They're happy with what they've got, but just keep it going. So they would prefer option 2 that we're going to explain here in a few minutes. The sports user groups, they really wanted some indoor turf, and the existing gymnasium at Orchard Mesa, if we were to convert that to turf, it was really too small for them to use effectively for their practices and leagues and such. So they would prefer option 4 or option 5 that incorporates indoor turf into this facility. Other attendees, there was concern about duplication, of just how is this facility going to compare and contrast with the new CRC that's coming online, and then just a wide variety of different opinions and just a mixed bag of preference on the different options that were presented. And so, we've taken a lot of these comments and the feedback that we received, and we presented 7 different options initially. We've now pared that back to 5 that we think really would suit this as viable options. And we're here to just explain the information and the data and give the city council and city leaders the right information to make a decision going on in the future. So option 1 that we've considered is really just maintaining the status quo. It's keeping the existing facility open as it is. The existing gymnasium and locker rooms would stay closed and just sort of shuttered. But any kind of operating of the pool itself, anything that breaks would have to be repaired, but keeping that existing facility open through at least October of 2026. And so what we're really talking about today is, what happens to Orchard Mesa Pool after 2026. So it is going to be open through that date. And so we're talking about, what becomes of it afterwards. Then the capital cost that you might anticipate over the next 3 years is, ranges from $800,000 to $935,000, just depending on, what kind of fails next. This would not include adding a new spa. So you would not have a spa in the status quo option.
So other data points to consider as we run through each one of these options is, number one, again, to recognize the fact that what we're doing is we're projecting into the future what each of these options and how the facility would operate while the new CRC is online. So again, this is not about today. This is about the future and each one of these options and how they interface with the CRC in the future. The current operational subsidy for the facility is about $300,000 annually. We're expecting that to increase to close to $400,000 simply because of the fact that, as we showed previously, we project a number of current participants and users of Orchard Mesa to become primary users of the CRC. This, of course, then would result in an overall decrease in the number of annual visits to around 14 to 15,000. So again, this is reflecting kind of an increase in that operational taxpayer subsidy and a decrease in annual visitation at Orchard Mesa.
Great. And so for option 2 that we're considering here is really a basic modernization of the pool out at Orchard Mesa. So this option considers demolition of the existing gymnasium and the old locker rooms and music room at the facility, cleaning everything up, putting in a new entry. We would renovate the locker rooms. We would replace all of the pool filters and pumps and heaters and the new HVAC equipment, new electrical, plumbing, pretty much a new facility that's still underneath that same umbrella and envelope of the existing pool. So the capital investment in this case is around that $5.7 million to $6.2 million.
And again, with operating a pool, which is one of the most expensive spaces to operate when it comes to public indoor recreation, we would anticipate that annual subsidy to continue to be between that 400,000 and 500,000. Though we would anticipate an increase in annual visitation simply because of the modernization of the pool, bringing the new spa back, potentially offering a greater variety of programs and services.
So the third option that we're considering is, well, what if you did a full facility renovation? Say we created sort of a new, miniature recreation center here. So we would go ahead and renovate the existing gym, replace the wood floor with a new wood court, convert some of the existing old locker rooms into fitness spaces, group exercise rooms, et cetera, renovate the lockers and admin areas, and then also renovate the pool, put some money in there and upgrade that as well. So the cost to renovate the entire facility, you're looking at more like $12.5 to $13.5 million.
And the spaces that Bob just mentioned are really core spaces that we find in many community recreation centers, whether they've been designed in the last 20 years or are currently being designed today. So fitness, gymnasiums, aquatics are all really core program and service offerings. We would obviously, these are very similar offerings that would certainly be offered at the new CRC. And the footprint obviously is much smaller associated with this. So we would still anticipate an annual taxpayer subsidy of $390,000 to operate the facility, though we would expect an increase in annual visitation upwards about 52,000, which is what the current visitation is for Orchard Mesa Pool on an annual basis.
Right, and then just a little bit more about what that pool upgrade and renovation could look like. It's adding some amenities to the pool, potentially a splash pad on the deck, upgrading the existing slide, adding some sports aspects, volleyball, basketball, maybe even the Ninja Cross item that drops down from the ceiling, and you'd be able to include floatables and making it just a really nice, well-rounded aquatic facility, and again increasing those annual uses, and a new hot tub, of course. All right, so option number 4 would be converting this existing facility into a turf facility. So that existing pool envelope would fill in the pool and convert that area to turf. That would be a great size for youth programming, youth soccer, youth lacrosse. You could do t-ball, baseball practice, things like that. And then on the northern part of the site, we would demolish the existing gym and locker rooms, et cetera, and add a new indoor turf field house, which is regulation indoor soccer, indoor lacrosse, be able to have batting cages and pitching cages in the corners. You could drop down nets and hit golf balls. You could run day camps and summer camps and all kinds of different activities and trainings at corporate events and things like that. So this would be a unique space to Grand Junction, one that's very limited here currently, but it comes with a pretty significant capital investment. So you're talking about a $27.5 to $29 million investment to convert this to a turf.
So as Bob said, this would be really unique. This is not something that's currently offered at a significant level in the area, and in turn would certainly draw from a much greater service area, maybe upwards of an hour. It would provide and fulfill unmet needs in the community as it relates to indoor turf sports, as Bob mentioned. And so therefore, we would expect an annual increase in visitation upwards of close to 80,000, while at the same time reducing the subsidy to close to 162,000. This is in part simply because the overhead associated with managing a facility like this is much less costly to do than indoor aquatics. As well as really being able to drive operation hours around programs and services, since much of the operation and utilization would be scheduled.
Sure. And then the fifth and final option that we're considering in this study is just, what if we went all in on an indoor turf field house project? So in this case, we would demolish the entire existing building and start over, build 2 regulation full-sized indoor soccer facilities. So you could host, adult leagues, youth leagues, even some tournaments and, off seasons and things like that. It would have locker rooms, changing rooms, and then also a classroom that could be used for parties and things like that. Capital investment for this, slightly higher than the previous one. It's more like $30 million to $33 million.
Correct. And the annual operational subsidy would come down even more. The service area for a facility like this would probably grow to about an hour and a half drive time. Operational subsidy down to just about $126,000 annually. But we would also anticipate annual visitation to be close to 100,000, which would be double what the current Orchard Mesa facility offers. In terms of a summary of options, we've lined up each one of the options that we've just ran through, and also kind of compared that to the new CRC, which is the yellow gold row at the bottom there. So you could see that the capital cost investment, the construction costs increases significantly for each one of the options. But we also see projected annual visitation to increase substantially through running from option 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. Cost recovery, annual cost recovery, which is simply the amount of revenue that offsets expenditures, would grow substantially as well, from about 24%, which is what's projected, and growing all the way up to 80% for option 5. And then inversely, as you would expect, if the cost recovery rate is low, the annual operational subsidy of taxpayer dollars would be high. So the highest level of subsidies really are around each one of the first 3 options, and very much driven by the expense just in operating indoor aquatics. Options 4 and 5 certainly see a reduction in that overall subsidy. And then the last column is an interesting piece of analysis that I think is important for everybody to understand. So based on projected annual visitation, what we're talking about when we talk about operational subsidy per visit is basically the amount of taxpayer dollars that are going to offset each and every visit that somebody makes to a facility. So whether this is the new CRC and $3.36 is of taxpayer money is going to offset each and every visit. But looking at option 1, it's a significant amount of money, $27.78 per visit being supported by taxpayer dollars. Now you might be thinking, how does this compare? We're really looking at operational subsidy, but we're not talking about capital costs or debt service. So I think it's important to note that we have done some analysis, recognizing that debt service is pretty much a fixed cost over a 20, 25, 30 year span, no differently than folks' mortgages are. But operational costs over time go up, and facilities get older, expenses go up. And over time, we would expect it to kind of say, all right, well, yeah, the option 5 costs a lot more to invest, but the operational subsidy is a lot less on an annual basis. We expect that to more or less be a wash for each one of these options kind of as we go forward. You don't want to say that's a complete net zero, but we're not necessarily looking at a long-term total cost of ownership investment in option 1 being significantly less than what we would look at for option 5.
Okay, so thank you all for tuning in. We will turn it back over to Ken to wrap things up.
Thank you so much, Bob and Mike, for that really great presentation and thorough analysis. And thank you for watching the video. And caring about your Parks and Recreation system. One of the things that I've certainly learned through the course of this process is there's a lot of people that really care about the Orchard Mesa pool, and that is very important to the Parks and Recreation Department. That's the reason why we exist, is to serve folks. And so we really appreciate the engagement that we've had through this process. I know there have been times where it's been a difficult conversation, but we've worked with our consultants to really try to approach this objectively and really look at what the impact is going to be once that community recreation center is online, scheduled currently to be complete by the end of 2025. I also want to emphasize too that the city is committed to making sure, just underscore one of the points that Bob made. The city is committed to operating the Orchard Mesa pool through at least October 2026. Because from the city's perspective, at least staff's recommendation to city council is to really see what kind of impact the rec center is going to have on the Orchard Mesa pool, and then go from there. So the pool's good for right now, and we have done this study to ensure that we're really looking at this objectively and making sure that we're being good stewards of taxpayer dollars. So I want to thank everybody for attending. I do want to encourage folks to leave comments at Engage GJ. Folks that came to the public forum had a chance to provide comment that is going to be included in the plan that will ultimately be presented to City Council. I want to also say that folks have the opportunity to leave those same similar comments through Engage GJ, and then those comments are then forwarded on to Bob at OLC to roll into the final report. So I want to thank you again for taking the time to care about your Parks and Rec system, and we hope that you found this to be informative. So thank you very much.